Alright everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, video number 196, Magic and Mystery, a very interesting work. Link in the description to my edition of this work on Amazon, second and third links to my books blogs. It's full-ish length, it's like 130-something pages. This is an interesting compilation of folklore, but again, with some of these works that I'm now getting into, they're essentially written from the skeptical perspective. They're not written by aficionados of the occult or by spiritualists. They're written by people who are seeking to refute folklore in many cases. They accidentally ended up compiling it and preserving it for future generations at a level that, like spiritualism, which basically totally died out, could never have done. The occult renaissance that we're in right now is partially prefaced on academic works that were written by people who are totally anti-spiritualistic. It's very, very interesting to think of that. This folklore here is quite elaborate. It goes from all the way from far antiquity and even like archaic civilization or pre-civilization, you could call it, all the way up to the then modern 19th century. It goes in all that. It talks about fairy lore at the same time that it talks about homeopathy. It talks about pseudoscience, like some really weird stuff, at the same time that it talks about like the history of the gods sort of material, ecstatic rites and psychic arts and mesmerism and things like that. It has a little bit of everything. Basically, this is an attempt to dispel all of these as superstition. Interestingly enough, though, some of the asides that it makes, some of the then accepted science that it utilizes, it's like, well, we're talking about basic cell biology and stuff like that, has actually been totally discredited. Like you know, if you go back 100 years and you look at academic works on especially disease, anything medically related, a lot of the material then that was accepted by rational scientific minds, no spiritualism, no religiosity, just pure atheistic science in a nutshell, has been discredited now and is seen as no different than the homeopathy, than the folk medicine that they themselves in many cases attempted to discredit. And so you have this interesting situation where actually some of the accepted supposedly rational things in this book are more discredited than some of the folklore. Some of that folklore actually is perpetuated itself, like mesmerism, or I should say hypnosis in the more general sense. Although not widely popular anymore as a means, it is still used in a therapeutic setting. It doesn't work on everyone, but it can be used. It still exists to this day. But these ozone generators and stuff that were more accepted back then, now they're considered total quackery. You can, by the way, you can get ozone generation systems, those little purple light things that they used to heal people, like with electroshock and stuff. You can get those off eBay. Some of them still even work. You can actually get them. It'd be so interesting. I've actually thought about buying one and trying to, like, you know, repair it and restore it and you know, to have something. I like medical paraphernalia, old medical stuff. I think it's fascinating. But this is getting off on a tangent. This is an interesting work, highly recommended. It is a good compilation of folklore. Some secondary sourcing involved from various historical sources, especially. Oftentimes it's Caesar, which is the funniest thing. If you're talking about antiquity as the Romans would have purveyed it, you're talking about Caesar's basically writing about these things, which can also be interesting as well. A little bit of a biased source maybe at times, but very, very good overall. Some of these Roman philosophers and leaders writing down their opinions on things. Immense repositories of knowledge. Anyway, again, link in the description of my edition of this work is on Amazon. Second and third links are to my books blogs. There are plenty of other folkloric works. This is definitely under the folklore header. There are probably a dozen pure folklore works, and some more recent ones written by people who are rational minds trying to dispel it, accidentally ended up promoting it instead because it's cool. Folklore is interesting. That's about all. Peace out.